The whole courtroom went silent when Karen realized the judge was my daughter. Her face turned pale, and she dropped like a stone. She stole 20 million from my land, but she never saw who would make her pay. Karen's face turned white as a ghost when she saw my daughter walk in wearing her judge's robe. The courtroom gasped. Cameras flashed. I stood still, holding the old leather ledger in my hand, the one that carried my grandmother's handwriting. It smelled like dust and justice. Karen tried to speak, but her lips trembled. That can't be real, she stammered. I looked straight at her. It's real, Karen. Just like your lies. The judge, my daughter, raised her gavel. Order in the court. Every memory of betrayal flashed before my eyes. Every meeting, every handshake, every fake smile she gave me. I never imagined it would end here. Before we go on, please, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I want to see how many families, parents, and neighbors are feeling this story across the country tonight. Your comment helps this message reach more people who've faced unfair HOA rules too. 30 homes stood tall on land that wasn't hers. 7 already sold for millions. But one thing she didn't know, I let her build every single one. I wanted her greed to trap her. And now, as she stared at my daughter, her knees buckled. She fainted before the verdict even came. The sound of her body hitting the marble floor echoed like thunder. Everyone froze. The same woman who once mocked me for owning empty dirt was now lying powerless beneath justice itself. But this wasn't how it began. It started years ago, under the Florida sun, with a letter from my late grandmother. That letter changed everything. And I was about to find out how deep betrayal could dig its roots. I still remember the dusty morning when the lawyer handed me the envelope. 50 acres in Pine Bay County, he said. Your grandmother wanted it kept in family hands. At first, it meant nothing. Just wild grass and sand. But she had scribbled something on the deed. Don't ever sell it. It carries our story. I didn't understand back then. The land sat untouched for years, until Karen moved in. She was the new HOA president, all pearls, heels, and fake smiles. Vacant land attracts trash, she told me during our first meeting. I'm helping the neighborhood, she said, pretending to care. Her tone dripped with superiority. I ignored her until construction trucks started showing up near my fence. At first, I thought they were city workers. Then I saw the signs, Sunrise Oaks, Luxury Homes by Karen Estates. I froze. They were building on my land. I drove straight there, heart pounding, and demanded answers. But Karen just smirked. It's HOA approved, dear. Must be a mistake in your records. Her arrogance burned through me like fire. I could have stopped it then. But instead, I made a decision that would haunt and save me. I let her finish. Because I knew something she didn't. Something buried deep in my grandmother's old trunk. That night, I couldn't sleep. I drove to my grandmother's old cabin by the marsh, flashlight in hand. The air smelled of wet earth and forgotten stories. I found her trunk, heavy oak, locked but brittle with age. Inside were letters, photographs, and a thick brown ledger. It was filled with her handwriting, slanted, patient, loving. Each page carried transactions, boundaries, names of neighbors long gone. Then I saw it, tucked between 2 yellowed pages, the original land deed. Stamped, signed, sealed in 1957. The same 50 acres now covered in Karen's luxury homes. My pulse raced. This was my grandmother's legacy, the document Karen thought was lost. I took it home, made copies, and hid the original. From that moment, I watched Karen's construction rise like arrogance made of bricks. She held barbecues, invited investors, smiled for cameras. And every time she waved from her luxury SUV, I waved back. She thought she'd beaten me. But I wasn't fighting her greed, I was feeding it. I needed her to go all in. The deeper her fraud, the higher her fall. My patience became my weapon. And I sharpened it with silence. Karen loved HOA meetings. She stood at the front, barking orders like a queen over peasants. Your fence violates color codes, Greg, she sneered. I smiled politely. Sure, Karen. Neighbors laughed, whispering behind my back. To them, I was the lazy landowner, too slow to sell, too poor to matter. But I never missed a meeting. I watched, listened, and took notes. Karen's biggest weakness wasn't greed, it was pride. She wanted power, attention, validation. When she announced her Sunrise Oaks project, everyone clapped. I clapped too, hiding my smirk. They praised her vision for luxury living. Phase 1 complete, she cheered, champagne in hand. The irony? Her entire project stood on land I inherited. Every brick was a legal time bomb. Every house was another nail in her coffin. I'd whisper to myself, "Keep building, Karen. Keep building." My wife thought I was losing it. "Why don't you stop her?" she asked. "Because," I said softly, "she's building her own punishment." And deep down, I couldn't wait to see her face when the truth came out. But the day that truth arrived, it came in court, not construction. 2 years later, the neighborhood threw a grand party. Karen had sold 7 homes, worth over $20 million combined. She stood on a stage, glittering in a gold dress, cameras flashing. "Dreams come true when you fight for what's yours," she said proudly. I almost laughed at the irony. She even thanked me. "Greg taught me patience," she joked. Everyone laughed, not knowing the truth. I raised my glass, pretending to toast her success. Inside, I was counting signatures, addresses, and dates. Every sale was another felony. Every buyer another future witness. Karen's empire was built on my soil, literally. And her confidence made her sloppy. I had everything documented: emails, contracts, photos. I even took drone footage of her workers breaking my fence line. I was no longer angry. I was focused. Because justice isn't loud. It's quiet. It waits. And when it strikes, it destroys everything false. So I waited for the right time. When her greed peaked and her pride blinded her completely. That day came when a letter arrived from the county clerk's office. It was time to go to court. Karen received the court summons during an HOA meeting. Her smile froze mid-sentence as she read the paper. Neighbors whispered, confused. "What's this about?" someone asked. "Nothing important," she said quickly, forcing a laugh. But her hands trembled. The charges were clear: unlawful construction, fraudulent sales, property encroachment. She tried calling me that night. I didn't answer. The next morning, she came to my doorstep, all perfume and panic. "Greg, this is a misunderstanding," she pleaded. I looked her in the eye. "Karen, I told you that land carried my grandmother's story." Her face hardened. "You can't win this. I have money, lawyers, everything." I stepped aside. So did Goliath. That was the last time she smiled at me. Her HOA board turned silent. Buyers panicked. Reporters showed up. And when the case made headlines, Florida HOA president accused of land fraud, I finally opened my old trunk again. I took out the ledger. It was time for Grandma's handwriting to speak louder than Karen's lies. The courtroom would be our battlefield. And I had the ultimate weapon, a deed written in blood and memory. The courthouse smelled of fear and coffee. Karen arrived in a designer suit, hiding behind her lawyer. I sat quietly, the ledger on my lap. The judge entered, but Karen didn't notice who it was yet. The hearing began. Her lawyer spoke fast. "My client legally developed this land under proper HOA jurisdiction." Then it was my turn. I stood slowly and placed the old ledger on the table. "This book," I said, "is my grandmother's life." The judge leaned forward, curious. I opened it to the folded deed, its ink fading but clear. Gasps filled the room. Karen's lawyer froze. "Objection," he shouted. "Overruled," said the judge. Karen turned pale. For the first time, her eyes met mine, and I saw real fear. The same woman who once laughed at my empty dirt now realized the ground beneath her empire wasn't hers. Then the judge looked at me and smiled faintly. That smile, it was familiar. It was my daughter's smile. And Karen hadn't noticed yet. Karen's voice cracked. "That deed can't be valid. It's too old." My daughter leaned forward. "Ma'am, property rights don't expire with arrogance." Karen blinked, confused, not yet recognizing her. I continued. "That ledger proves the land's boundaries and ownership, passed directly from my grandmother, Evelyn Harper. The courtroom murmured. The clerk read aloud each legal clause. Karen's lawyer looked defeated. Then came the moment. Karen glanced at the judge's nameplate, Judge Harper. Her jaw dropped. "That's your daughter?" she whispered. I didn't respond. My silence was answer enough. Her knees wobbled. You could hear her breath quicken. Reporters leaned in. Cameras clicked. The entire courtroom seemed to tilt. For the first time, power wasn't on her side. It was in the bloodline of the woman she'd mocked. My daughter raised the gavel. "Proceed." Karen stuttered. I didn't know. But ignorance doesn't erase deceit. The deed stood unquestioned. Every house she sold now belonged to me. The courtroom buzzed, disbelief and justice mixing like thunder and rain. Karen gripped the bench for balance. Then it happened, she collapsed. The sound of her body hitting the marble echoed through the chamber. Gasps filled the air. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted. Paramedics rushed in, but Karen just stared blankly upward. Her empire had fallen in an instant. Reporters swarmed, snapping photos. Her lawyer stood speechless. My daughter called for a recess. I stood quietly, emotionless. Not out of cruelty, but closure. This was the justice my grandmother deserved. Every brick Karen laid was now legally mine. The 7 buyers? Compensated through insurance. The rest of the development? Ordered vacated and reclaimed. Karen's face haunted me, not out of pity, but reminder. Greed can build kingdoms, but truth tears them down. As paramedics wheeled her away, she whispered faintly, "You planned this." I leaned close. "No, Karen. You planned your own downfall." She closed her eyes. And in that silence, 50 acres of justice finally breathed again. When court resumed, my daughter's verdict echoed loud and proud. All properties revert to the rightful owner, Mr. Gregory Harper. The gavel struck. The room erupted. And my grandmother's land, our legacy, was home again. Months later, I walked through the reclaimed fields. The sun was setting, gold over pine and grass. Half-built homes stood quiet, like monuments of arrogance. My daughter joined me, smiling. "Grandma would have been proud," she said. I nodded, holding the old ledger. "This book ended an empire," I whispered. She laughed softly. "No, it just reminded people that truth still matters." We decided not to rebuild the luxury homes. Instead, we made a community garden, open to everyone, free of HOA control. Children laughed where Karen once drew fences. Life returned to the land that greed had stolen. Sometimes I'd hear neighbors gossip, calling me the man who beat the HOA queen. But it wasn't about revenge. It was about legacy. 50 acres of lesson. Patience is stronger than pride. Greed always forgets history, but history never forgets truth. As I closed the old ledger for the last time, I smiled. Justice had roots. And mine grew from my grandmother's handwriting. Under the Florida sky, I finally whispered, "Thank you, Grandma. We kept the promise." And the land, quiet and alive again, seemed to whisper back, "You did well, Gregory."